Hello, scholars. Dean Shepherd here. If you're watching this video, I will be giving you some information on historically Black colleges and our universities, aka HBCUs. This video is part of the larger virtual So You Want to Apply series, where we have just been taking specific program and or college types and giving you a little bit more background information to help inform your own college and career list research. So I invite you to lean into this video, learn a little bit more about historically Black colleges or universities, and complete the exit ticket. The goal of completing that exit ticket is for your college and career counselor to understand where your interest falls, and ultimately help support you in learning more information and applying if that is something that you are interested in doing. So in this video, I'll go over some context about HBCUs, the what and the why. We'll walk through a couple of examples, and then I will provide some answers to some frequently asked questions. All right, let's get started. So what is an HBCU? Well, historically, according to the Higher Education Act of 1965, historically Black colleges are defined as HBCUs that were established prior to 1964 with the primary mission to provide education and the advancement of Black Americans. So, clearly HBCUs came out of a need to erect educational spaces that saw value and excellence in Black Americans, not just for the academic aspect, but also for the social and cultural aspect as well. HBCUs go through an accreditation process by a nationally recognized accreditation agency and association. I'll go through that in a minute. Student population is predominantly students of color, but ultimately students of any racial and ethnic group can apply as well as attend an HBCU. So I want to review an important vocab word that you will see come up as you are doing your research around HBCUs and or other colleges and universities, and that is called accreditation. Accreditation is a form of certification which an independent body like an agency or association completes to verify that a school and or academic program meets minimum academic standards. The process or purpose behind accreditation is to ensure that the academic credentials that a student is receiving or obtaining for a college or program is valid and substantive and can be recognized by a future employer and or future post-graduate institution, or post-secondary institution. So for example, if you go to receive your bachelor's, you will receive a bachelor's degree. And let's say if you wanna go on and further your education and receive a master's or doctorate, you wanna make sure you're receiving a bachelor's degree from an accredited HBCU and or college and university so that that degree can be recognized when you go and complete those other applications, okay? So anything that you take from here, make sure that your institution is accredited so that your degree that you receive is also accredited. What HBCUs exist? There are over 100 HBCUs throughout 20 states. You can see the states here listed: Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, DC, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, as well as the US Virgin Islands. So in that list, you'll see I listed a lot of Southern states. There are a lot of HBCUs in the South. Unfortunately, there are no HBCUs in the state of Connecticut, but the closest HBCU to us is located in Delaware. 56 HBCUs are private institutions currently, and 51 are flagged as or categorized as public colleges and universities. So let's talk about a little bit what that means. When we hear public or private, ultimately you want to think about funding source and a couple of other things, but ultimately public colleges and our universities are higher ed institutions that receive the bulk of their funding from state government or state funding. Whereas private colleges and universities rely on things like student tuition fees or alumni donations or endowments as a main source for funding for their academic programs. Private colleges and or universities can also be viewed as, can also be for-profit or nonprofit as well. So as you think about that in the context of HBCUs, a lot of HBCUs at this time are private institutions. And so main funding sources are, endowments, alumni donations. There are a lot of notable alumni of HBCUs, as well as student tuitions and fees. So something to think about and consider as you are researching HBCUs. And ultimately, when you're thinking about funding as a student or prospective student, you can think about what that means for like your financial aid or financial resources available to you. 87 HBCUs institutions are four-year colleges, which means there are some that are two-year. HBCUs enroll 20% of Black undergrads, which seems really small. However, HBCUs award over 40% of bachelor degrees by Black college grads. And so as you think about that in comparison to predominantly white institutions, which are called PWIs, HBCUs only make up 3% of the four-year colleges in the country, right? So it's a really small, population of schools. However, they produce high numbers of Black college grads from the undergraduate level, as well as the graduate level. So for example, HBCUs produce over 80% of the nation's Black judges, as well as about 50% of Black doctors. So just something to think about as you're thinking about program interest and offerings, if you are interested in an HBCU. Now we're going to spend some time just walking through a couple of notable HBCUs, starting with Howard University. Selfishly, I started here because it is my alma mater. Howard University is located in Washington, D.C. It is a private research university. Again, we see private, so just thinking about funding sources. It is in an urban setting in a large city. Washington, D.C. Is a very unique city. And so Howard is smack dab in it. It's kind of busy, has a lot of local or public transportation, a lot of life on the campus as well as within the city itself. It has a 65% six-year graduation rate, a little above $48,000 for cost of attendance. For the schools I'm going to review the academic requirements based off of the historical data of Amistad students who applied. So for Amistad students who have applied and been accepted, they average about a 3.4 GPA with about a 1290 SAT. Notable about Howard University, besides the fact that Dean Shepard went there, it offers undergraduate and graduate degrees in over 120 programs, which is the highest amount of program offerings for undergrad and grad at any HBCU. The second HBCU that I want to talk about is Morehouse. Morehouse is an all-male HBCU located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a private liberal arts. We see private, again, thinking about what are the sources of funding. For this particular school, it is located in an urban setting, large city, 54% six-year graduation rate. Cost of attendance is about $50,000 a year. The average GPA of an accepted Amistad student in the past has been a 3.35, close to a 3.4. This college is test optional. Notable fact about Morehouse College, it is one of only 3 all-male liberal arts colleges in the country and the only all-male HBCU. So if you identify as a young man and you are thinking about the HBCU and a unique experience of going to an all-male college, this is the only all-male HBCU. On the other side, there is an all-female HBCU, the notable Spelman College, which is also located in Atlanta, Georgia, not too far from Morehouse. It is a private liberal arts all-female college in Atlanta, Georgia. So urban setting, large city, 57% six-year graduation rate. Cost of attendance is a little above $43,000. Again, looking at those academic requirements, the average GPA of an accepted Amistad student was around a 3.8 almost. So pretty competitive it is test optional. Notable fact about Spelman College. Spelman College is one of the top HBCUs. It's also recognized as a global leader in the education of Black women and is the leading producer of Black women who go on to complete their doctorate programs, which are graduate degrees. Lastly, I just wanted to highlight Delaware State University because it is the HBCU that is closest to Connecticut, you could argue. located in Dover, Delaware. It is a public university, suburban setting, large town, so not so much of a city feel, but it still is, Dover, Delaware still is pretty large, has a large population, 42% 6-year graduation rate. Cost of attendance is close to about $34,000. As we look at the academic requirements of the average accepted Amistad student was about a 2.88. And Delaware State University is test optional. So notable detail about Delaware State University, not sure, what type of music you might listen to, but the famous singer SZA attended Delaware State University, if that means anything to you. All right, team. Excuse me, got a little something cut in my throat. I'm going to close off with just answering a couple of frequently asked questions. And whatever is not answered here, I encourage you to do your own research to find out more information about HBCUs. So as mentioned prior, HBCUs do not only accept students of color. Actually, since their inception, HBCUs have accepted students of any racial and ethnic group. Another thing that kind of draws people to historically Black colleges is this idea of Black Greek life, sororities and fraternities, specifically the Divine Nine. So sometimes it's a misconception that, Black Greek sororities and fraternities are only at HBCUs. That's not true. Greek life is a big part of many college campuses. However, the Divine Nine, many of the Divine Nine organizations were founded at HBCUs, but they do exist at some of our PWIs like Yale, UConn, and or Union College. There are a lot of famous alumni of HBCUs. To name a few, we have Martin Luther King, Taraji P. Henson, Toni Morrison, Spike Lee, Killer Mike, Toni Braxton, 2 Chainz, Alice Walker, Common, Terrence J, Erykah Badu, Diddy, Oprah, and Chadwick Boseman. Wakanda forever. I want to close out our time just talking about different ways in which you can apply to HBCUs, because they do have a unique feature for their application process for some of the HBCUs. So we like to highlight 3 different ways ultimately that you can apply to HBCUs. One of them being called the Common Black College Application, which is an online application system that allows applicants to apply to about 50 HBCUs at once. Applicants can submit things like biographical information, GPA and other background information, like your intended major of interest, as well as your top 4 HBCUs out of the 58 that receive the Common Black College Application. This application, however, does not allow applicants to upload supplementary information like your personal statement or like any additional college essays called supplementals or recommendations. Those things do have to be submitted separately to the specific colleges, okay? So that's called the Common Black College Application. The second most popular way to apply to any college, but there are limited colleges, HBCUs that use this option, called the Common Application, which we use heavily here at Amistad High School in our college and career process. So Common App is an online application system that allows applicants to apply to over 900 colleges and universities. There are only 7 HBCUs who use this application, and those schools are Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, Dillard College, Morehouse, Spelman, Fisk University, Howard University, and Xavier University, okay? So it works in a similar way as the Common Black College Application. However, you are allowed to upload supplemental information in the Common App. And the third option for some HBCUs is they just have an application right on their school website. And so as you get deeper into deciding what schools you will apply to, and that ultimately end up on your college and or career list, some of those HBCUs might just have an application process through the school website. And so you will get that information if that is something that you choose. Ultimately, team, that concludes the presentation on HBCUs. I encourage you to continue to do your own research, think about interest, think about where you want to be, about some of your goals. And if HBCUs are of interest to you, I strongly encourage you to continue to build that understanding of them, add them to your list and talk to your college and career counselor about them, okay? All right, just a reminder to make sure that you complete that exit ticket so that your college and career counselor can support you. All right, team, take care.